So welcome again at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery. We want to bring you the live feeding of the baby elephants here at 3 p.m. at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. Is a project that was started officially back in the year 1977 after the death of David Sheldrick, who was a naturalist and the senior founder warden of the Lugod National Park. He died in 1977. And the project was started in his memory under the management of the widow, who is now the late Dr. Daphne Sheldrick, who's been running the project since then and passed on, leaving the mandate to her daughter Angela Sheldrick, who was running the project together with the mother for about 17 years before the mother passed on. Right now, the project is under the management of Angela Sheldrick. And so we take care of orphan baby elephants and orphan baby rhinos, and later on reintroducing them back into the wild. And that's why all the babies you're going to see here today are orphans. And all have been rescued from different parts of the country, and they have different reasons for being orphans. Some of them, we know exactly what has caused them to be left orphans, and others we're really not very sure. But since they were found all alone, when they are still at a very young age, at an age where they would not have survived without the mother's milk, and also without protection against other dangers. That's why we rescue them, so that we can hand raise them here for approximately 3 years. And any time after the age of 3, we will start to reintroduce them back into the wild, and we'll always reintroduce them to Tsavo East National Park and Kibwezi Forest, a process that takes them about 5 years minimum before they fully get invited and adopted in a herd of wild elephants. And once they all get adopted, then we set them free and let them become wild once again. The elephants have actually started to join us now, and they'll be coming in smaller groups. I will first of all start with an elephant by the name Lugod, who is approximately over 3 years old. And Lugod was rescued from Tsavo Conservation Area near the Lugod Falls. He was found with a bad injury in the knee, and that's why you might have realized that he is limping. He's an elephant that will be able to go to Kibwezi Forest, where we take elephants that have got some challenges. They get monitored for a longer time, but in a wild environment. On my left, I've got an elephant by the name Ziwadi, who is approximately 2 years old. And Ziwadi was rescued from the Masai Mara. She was identified all alone within the park, suspected to have been abandoned or left behind by the rest of the family members for reasons we could not tell. And we made this suspicion because when she came in, we realized that she was either going the opposite direction or being left behind from the rest of the group here in the nursery. Later on, we discovered that she's epileptic, and sometimes she goes into seizures. And that is why we had to actually make sure that she has close observation, and she's on medication. We expect her to be back to normal by the time she'll be ready to go back into the wild. Next to Ziwadi is the second oldest, an elephant by the name Tamioi, 3.5 years old. And Tamioi was rescued from Samburu. She was found fallen down a well when she was only 1 month old. Nobody knows exactly the whereabouts of the mother and the rest of the family members, and that's why we rescued her at 1 month. Right now, she's about 3.5 years old, and she's one of the matriarchs that are assisting Tagwa to take care of the rest of the orphans in the nursery. Far and behind is Maktau, and Maktau is 2.5 years old. Maktau was rescued from Tsavo Conservation Area near a place called Maktau. He was found in a community all alone while at the age of about 3 months. Being found in a community tells it obviously that he was separated from his family by human beings, and so is a victim of human-wildlife conflict. Next to me now is an elephant by the name Nkesha, who is slightly over 3 years, almost 3.5 years. And Nkesha was rescued from the Masai Mara. She was found trapped in a snare all around her trunk, and that's why we rescued her. And when she came in the nursery in the first place, we called in the vets to come and stitch the trunk back to normal. a surgery that was successfully done. But after a few days before the wound was healed, the elephant managed to take off all the stitches from the trunk. That's why you might have realized that part of it is still open, but it is healing well. Since the trunk is full of muscles, the elephant is in a position to squeeze the muscles together, cover the opening, suck the water in the trunk, and blow it in the mouth, which means she'll be able to survive back into the world. Right in the middle here, we've got the youngest elephant in the nursery, an elephant by the name Naleku, who is approximately 10 months old, who was rescued from the Masai Mara after the mother died from a natural disease. The baby left alone at the age of about 6 months old, and that's why we rescued her. Right now, she's about 10 months and adjusting well in the nursery. We do have an elephant by the name Nabulu, 3 years old, and Nabulu was rescued from the Masai Mara. Nabulu was identified all alone within the park, very thin and weak, a sign that she had been alone and she was not getting enough food and also not having milk from the mother, which meant that she was an orphan. That's why we rescued her. Right now, 3 years, ready to go back into the world. Next to my right happens to be the latest arrival that we've got in the nursery, an elephant by the name Naboisho. And Naboishu was rescued from the Masai Mara. This was about 1.5 to 2 weeks ago, and the mother died from a natural disease. That's why he was left alone. Right now, approximately 18 months, and adjusting well in the nursery at the moment. We do have another group joining us at the moment. The first one to come in is Satau, and Satau is approximately over 3 years. Satau was rescued from Sava Conservation Area near the famous Satau place. He was only 4 months old. The mother is believed to have been killed by poachers, and that's why he was left alone. Right now, almost 3.5 years, and one of the older bulls that we've got in the nursery. I do have Mukoka on my left, who is 2 years old, and Mukoka was rescued from northern part of Savo East National Park, a place called Idumba, identified by aerial surveillance on patrol, who found the baby all alone within the park, observed him for some time, hoping for the mother to come back and collect the baby, but none existed, which meant that he was an orphan, and that's why we rescued him. Close to my right is the second youngest, and the youngest boy, an elephant by the name Roho, who is approximately 14 months old. And Roho was rescued from Savo West National Park. The mother is believed to have been killed by poachers, and that's why Roho was left alone at about 7 months. Right now, 14 months and adjusting well in the nursery, and the youngest boy we got at the moment. We do have Maisha right in front of me, over 3 years old. And Maisha was rescued from Sava Conservation Area. She's a drought victim. Her mother is believed to have died from starvation due to drought, and that's why she was left alone. In front of Maisha is Ndololo, almost 3 years. And Ndololo was rescued also from Sava Conservation Area near a place called Ndololo. He was found floating down a waterhole all alone, very thin, very weak, very much dehydrated and emaciated. And this status he was found could tell obviously that he had been alone for a very long time and was as well starving. He was only skin and bone left on him, and that's why he needed an urgent rescue. Right now he's a strong, fat and round bull, ready to go back into the world anytime now. I do have an elephant by the name Musiara on my right, over 3 years old, almost 3.5. And Musiara was rescued from the Masai Mara. He was identified all alone within the park, while at the age of about 1 month, which is not normal and also not safe. And this is not safe because an elephant at 1 month does not have any teeth to browse and greens. They entirely rely on the mother's milk, and he did not have the mother to provide the milk no protection. So he was just very lucky to be found still alive, and that's why we rescued him at 1 month. Right now, approximately over 3 years old. And right behind me is Kiombo, 2.5 years, and Kiombo was rescued from the Masai Mara. He was identified all alone within the park, very weak and very thin and still young, a sign that She was starving, and nobody could tell exactly the whereabouts of the mother, and that's why we rescued Kyombo. Far and the big one is an elephant by the name Kiasa at almost 3 years old. And Kiasa was rescued from Sava Conservation Area. She is a drought victim. Her mother is believed to have died from starvation due to drought, and that's why she was left an orphan. Next to Kiasa, the small one is Laro at approximately 2 years old. And Laro was rescued from the Masai Mara or Laro Conservancy, identified all alone and suspected to have been separated from her family by human beings, and that's why we rescued her. The biggest in size is an elephant by the name Tagwa, who happens to be the main matriarch or the leader of all the elephants that we've got in the nursery, approximately 4 years old. And any time from now, ready to go back into the world. Tagwa was rescued from Kenya forest after she had been separated from her family by human beings, and so she's a victim of human-wildlife conflict. So that makes a total of 18 elephants, all that we've got in the nursery at the moment under our care for the first 3 years before we take them to Savo, where we start to reintroduce them back into the world, a process that takes them a minimum of about 5 years as they go out and come back interacting with wild elephants, who will later on invite them in the families. And once the wild elephants invite them, they will train them, they will protect them, they will warn them against human beings. And all these babies you see here will have become as wild as any other elephant out there. And when we see that happen, we can successfully say we've achieved our target, because our main target here is to rescue them since they were found orphans, handread them, and later on reintroducing them back into the world. So if you're joining us now, welcome. We are at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery, where we take care of baby elephants, rhinos, and later on are reintroducing them back into the wild. And the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust is working together with the Kenya Wildlife Service to ensure that all animals are safe in the parks. And that is why we also have other projects that we undertake. For example, we have got mobile veterinary units. We've got anti-poaching teams, we've got community projects, we've got our aerial surveillance, we've got our dog unit, and all this is working together with the Kenya Wildlife Service to ensure that all the parks are safe for all wild animals. So while in the nursery, the elephants need a 24-hour care, which means all day they are out in the park in the company of the keepers. All the bushes around is part of Nairobi National Park, so the elephants will go out every day in the morning at 6, always accompanied by the keepers. And we take them out in the park so that they can learn by natural instinct on how to behave as elephants. Most behaviors in elephants are instinct, they just need direction and they know what to do. And that is why in a wild environment they will feed on different types of vegetation, they'll smell on different types of greens and know which ones are the rightful ones for them to feed on and which ones are not. The keepers are always accompanying them to provide protection whenever needed. And they come back for bed at 5. We've got their stockades, so or their bedrooms, where every elephant spends in the night. This is because out in the park we've got other animals like the lions and the hyenas, which can be a threat to these baby elephants. And that is why we have to bring them back in for the night. And in the rooms, for those elephants that are under the age of 2 years, they have a keeper spending the night in the rooms for the purposes of feeding them on demand when they are below a year, and every 3 hours after 1 year. Also for the purposes of keeping them company, because elephants are very social animals. If already they have lost their families, and when they came in the nursery, we've become part of the family members. And if left alone, they become lonely and stressed, and they can easily be stressed to death. And also for the purposes of covering them with blankets to make sure that they're kept warm. And this is because elephants are very much susceptible to pneumonia. They get pneumonia very easily, and it becomes a problem to treat pneumonia in elephants. And it becomes a problem because you cannot realize it in advance and start the treatment. You realize when it is too late. And you cannot tell this in advance because the lungs of an elephant are attached to the rib cage, and so they cannot cough. By the time you see some water dropping from their trunk, the lungs are already saturated, it's already too late, and you lose them within a very short time. That's why we have to make sure that they are kept in a warm environment. You might ask me, or you might be wondering, what happens in the wild? In the wild, elephants will stay in a herd or a bigger group, and all the big ones will surround the babies. The babies will get heat from the big ones. Here we only have a bunch of orphans who are all still young, who are not related, and that's why we have to play the role of the mother or the rest of the nannies within the family and provide what they would have done out in the world. So that is why they need a 24-hour care all day out and all night in the rooms as well. So if you're joining us now, welcome at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery. The elephants have finished the milk feed and they're enjoying some branches feeding and also playing in the dust. Always the first one to lie down and roll in the dust is Tagwa. She always loves to do that, and she does that to encourage the young ones to come and do it as well. And so she's the one lying down already, or being followed by Tamiyoi, who is also the second oldest in the nursery. The two are the main matriarchs in charge of all the elephants. Sometimes, if it is warm enough, you might see them going to play in the waterhole. We provide the waterhole and the dust and the greens, and we let them do what they want to do. We don't train these elephants on anything inside a wild environment and let them decide on what they want to do. So that is why you might see some are feeding, some are playing, some are just standing up. They have their freedom, like what they would have been doing out in the world. Now, we've been talking of feeding these elephants on milk on every 3 hours, day and night. And one elephant takes about 24 liters of milk in a day. For the big elephants, the two tiny ones takes about 14 liters of milk in a day. But you might be wondering, what type of milk are we feeding them? Of course, we cannot feed them on elephant's milk, since it is not very easy to milk a wild elephant and get the real milk. And that is why we feed them on a human baby formula, whose fats have been emulsified to make it easier for the babies to digest. And it took the founder of this place, the late Dr. Dame Daphne Sheldrick, about 28 years to discover that this is the right formula for them. And before that, she used the try and error method and lost most of the first orphans. But once she pioneered this formula, most orphans have survived and gone back into the world. And that's why it is believed to be close to the real mother's milk. And so we feed them on intervals of 3 hours day and night for the period of 3 years that they will be in the nursery. When they go to Savo, we to discourage them from the milk and let them concentrate more on greens. And that's why we make the feeding period a bit longer, from 3 hours to 6 hours, later on from 6 hours to 12 hours, and later on we stop the milk completely and let them survive on vegetation alone, because sorry, because by that time they'll be strong enough to get out and feed on greens. Now, you might be wondering where we get the milk, how we get the milk. You can help support this project by donating to the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, and that will help to buy a bottle of milk for an elephant. You can also sponsor or adopt an elephant. If you go on our website, you'll find out how you can adopt an elephant. It is only $50 a year to adopt an elephant, and then you can adopt an elephant for yourself, or you can do it as a gift to somebody. And if you do it as a gift, it is a gift recipient that gets the updates every month. But if you do it for yourself, it's you that will receive the updates every month until after 1 year we let you know, and you decide if you want to renew it again or not. So you can go on our website, find out how you can support the project, how you can donate. You can donate towards the elephants, towards the other projects that are being undertaken by the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, like the mobile veterinary units, the anti-poaching teams, the community project, the aerial surveillance, the dog unit, and all that will go towards the care and protection of all the animals in general. So if you're joining us now, we are at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery. We've got 18 elephants before us now, all under our care for the first 3 years of nursery before we take them to Savo East National Park and Kibwezi Forest, where we reintroduce them to different groups of wild elephants. We've got 3 reintroduction centers, northern part of Savo East National Park, a place called Idumba. We also have the Voi Stockades, and we also have in Kibwezi Forest, Umani Springs. So when they leave the nursery, they'll go to any of these 3 reintroduction centers. Our keepers will continue to monitor and take care of them until the time they join the wild herd. So we'll train them, protect them, warn them, and warn them against human beings, and they will have become as wild as any other elephant out there, and we set them free and let them become wild completely. If you adopt an elephant in the nursery, we will send you a watercolor painting, which is done by Angela Sheldrick. That will come to you online on monthly basis. You also get the keeper's diary, which is written every day by the keepers, telling different stories from different orphans. And all that will be brought to your account on monthly basis online as well. And so you'll get to enjoy and get all the updates of everything that is happening in the nursery just actually on your account. We do have a water hole for the elephants to play in, but because we've got lots of rain in Nairobi or in the country in general at the moment, and the elephants have got lots of water holes out in the park, so they've been playing from morning in the water hole. That's why they're not interested in a water hole here. But when it's warm or hot enough, you realize that when they come in after the bottles, they want to run and go and roll in the mud to cool themselves. We do have the two boys sizing around. Those are Maktao on the ground and Satao standing up. If you're joining us now, we are at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery, where you can help support the project by adopting or sponsoring an elephant. If you go on our website, you'll find out how to adopt an elephant or how to donate in order to buy a milk bottle for the elephants. And you pick an elephant of your choice. If you want an elephant in the nursery, you pick for the elephants that are in the nursery. You can pick an elephant from the Voi stockades or from the Dumba stockades or from the Kibwezi Forest to Mani Springs stockades. And you'll help support the project and ensure that all the elephants have got a better life before they generally become wild. And the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust is working together with the Kenya Wildlife Service to ensure that all animals are safe in the parks. This is Tagwa, the main matriarch in the nursery, who is ready to go and join the other wild elephants in Savo. Obviously, she will be accompanied by the others from the group. The likes of Tamioi are also ready to start the process of being reintroduced. The likes of Satao are also ready. The likes of Musiara. All those that are 3 years and above, that is when we take them to Savo and start the process of being reintroduced. So after some time here, the elephants will be walking out in the park to spend the rest of the day. We take them out into Nairobi National Park and let them do what they want to do as elephants while out there until at 5 when they come back for bed, where the young ones will spend the night with the keepers. You might realize that they've had a good time rolling in the mud, in the dust, and also feeding on the greens. And now they want to go and spend the rest of the day out. I would like to take this opportunity and thank you all for those who joined us. We want to believe that you've enjoyed what we brought to you. We understand the situation worldwide at the moment, where everybody is enclosed in the rooms. And we thought it is wise to bring something good in your sitting room for you to enjoy and be happy at. And that's why we brought this live feeding of the elephants from the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will be able to bring you more information soon. Remember to keep safe.